It wasn't a missing sugar flour or a collapsed layer that made the baker's stomach knot. It was the faint, coppery scent of iron that clung to the air, a smell that didn't belong near buttercream and vanilla. His breath hitched when he noticed it. A single, hair-thin crack in the fondant on the middle tier. From that tiny fissure came a sound, not the hum of a refrigerator or the drip of a faucet, but a faint, wet, rhythmic tapping. The air grew heavy and cold, like opening a tomb sealed for centuries. As he leaned closer, the tapping stopped, replaced by something worse. The unmistakable sound of something scratching from within, trying to get out. A primal dread took hold of him, freezing his fingers inches from the icing. This wasn't a baking mishap. Something had been sealed inside this confection, something that was very much alive. A smear of dark red, like jam, glistened in the low light. But as we drew closer, the air grew heavy with the metallic tang of iron. It wasn't jam. It was a partial, bloody fingerprint pressed into the grain. For my sister Sarah, this single, sticky impression was a piece of evidence from her murder, a murder she helped cover up. I didn't find out until the day I was supposed to cut into my own. The backstory begins with warmth that now feels like a lie. Their shared laughter in that moment hangs in the air, tainted by everything I now know. Childhood photos fade across the screen, soft piano notes drifting beneath them. Emily's voice, now a low murmur. Sarah wasn't just my sister, she was my anchor. After our parents were gone, her presence became the only warmth in the house. The air in those rooms always carried the faint, clean scent of her perfume. When she launched Fresh Start Cleaning, I was her most vocal supporter. She called herself a biohazard and deep clean specialist. Hoarder houses, flood zones, the kind of places that leave a lingering chemical scent in the air. Sarah said it was brutal, honest work. She'd return home exhausted, often withdrawn, but she was constructing something. I was so proud of her unyielding spirit. Then came the day Emily showed off her engagement ring to Sarah. Sarah's smile was radiant, but her eyes held a profound weariness. The air in the room felt heavy, thick with unspoken strain. I could almost smell the metallic tang of hidden stress. That silent, heavy look in her eyes was the first whisper that something was deeply wrong. After Mike proposed, Sarah insisted on handling every vendor as her wedding gift. She booked the florist, the band, and the cake designer herself. The pastry chef was a reclusive genius she knew through a client. I didn't ask questions. Sarah's control began to slip as the situation escalated. Her phone calls grew hushed. Whispered conversations she'd hide from the room. The air in the house grew heavy with the scent of ozone and unspoken dread. Each murmured word seemed to leach the warmth from the walls, leaving only a sticky, creeping cold. The Texas sun beat down, but Sarah began wearing long sleeves regardless, a strange new armor against the heat. Emily's voice noted the subtle shift. Sarah grew detached, her gaze often fixed on some distant, unseen point. A sudden noise would make her flinch violently, her body reacting to threats only she could perceive. Then came the heavy, industrial flashlight on her keychain, an odd and unsettling weight to carry everywhere. She told me it was for dark closets. When I hugged her, my hand brushed against something hard and rectangular in her jacket pocket. Later, I saw it clearly. A police scanner. The air grew heavy with the scent of ozone as Emily confronted Sarah in the kitchen. The room fell still, but Sarah's posture tightened like a coiled spring. When I asked if the business was okay, she gave me a hollow smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sweetie, you don't want to know what people leave behind?" she whispered, the air growing thick with implication. "I'm just giving them a fresh start." That phrase began to sound less like a motto and more like a chilling mantra. The night before the wedding, Sarah personally delivered the cake to the venue. She refused all assistance, wheeling the magnificent creation in herself. It was a stunning masterpiece of white fondant and delicate sugar flowers. An unsettling quiet settled over the space as she worked alone. Sarah explained the chef's perfectionism, his insistence on personal delivery, and the sudden family emergency that intervened. But her delivery felt rehearsed, her posture unnaturally rigid as she hovered beside the wedding cake all evening. An unsettling dissonance settled in the air. The sweet scent of frosting now carried a faint, metallic tang. And as the joyful chaos of the reception unfolded around us, that guarded cake sat like a silent, waiting threat. Mike and Emily swayed to the music, but Sarah's gaze remained fixed on the cake, its frosting glowing unnaturally under the harsh spotlights. Her fingers tightened around the scanner in her pocket, its faint vibration humming against her palm like a trapped insect. The air carried the sweet scent of sugar and ozone, as if the celebration itself was charged with static. Emily's voiceover cut through the moment. It was time for the cake cutting. The room grew still as everyone gathered. Mike's hand closed over mine on the cake knife, his grip oddly tense. The crowd began their chant. 3, 2, before 1 could escape our lips, Sarah stormed forward. Her movement was violent, abrupt, a sudden blur of motion that shattered the moment. She crashed into the table with a force that jolted the room. The impact was sharp, a jarring thud that cut through the festive murmur. For a heartbeat, there was only the scent of sugar and ozone, and the cold dread of something gone terribly wrong. The top tiers of the cake trembled with an unnatural instability. Sarah's shout sliced through the music, her voice raw with a command that froze the celebration. A heavy, waiting silence fell, thick as the scent of wilting flowers. When she spoke again, a terrifying professional calm had settled over her like a shroud. Her words were measured, deliberate, cutting through the static of fear. "Everyone, I need you to calmly evacuate the ballroom." A frantic voice crackled over the intercom. "There's been a reported gas leak. Please move to the garden immediately." Confusion rippled through the guests, their festive chatter dying as the metallic tang of ozone began to taint the air. They were ushered out with urgent hands, their movements stiff with a dawning, unspoken dread. And Mike, his jaw clenched tight, watched it all unfold with a fury that felt colder than the night outside. Emily stood petrified, her muscles locked in place as if the very air had solidified around her. Mike's voice cracked with rage. "Sarah, what the hell is this? You're destroying everything." Ignoring him completely, Sarah seized Emily's arms with a grip like iron, her fingers digging into the flesh. Her voice dropped to a low, urgent whisper. "Emily, listen to me. Do not." Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with dread. "Touch this cake." Emily's reply came out thin and hesitant. "Why? What's in it?" A thick, cloying scent of sugar and something metallic hung in the air between them. Sarah's gaze snapped to the cake's middle tier, her focus absolute and terrifying. Sarah's voice dropped to a fractured whisper. She showed Emily a news alert on her phone. "Body of missing businessman found. Police suspect foul play." The date he vanished matched the day the cake chef had a groove. Family emergency. Emily's horror dawned as she realized that faint, dark smear wasn't jam. The luminol-reactive residue glowed under UV light, revealing blood invisible to the naked eye. Her so-called reclusive chef wasn't hiding from the world. He was the victim. The crime scene wasn't some remote forest or abandoned house. It was his own bakery. The place where he created life through bread had become his tomb. Sarah wasn't just cleaning. She'd been hired to make it all vanish by someone. Emily's voice trembled with raw terror, the words barely escaping her lips. "Who hired you, Sarah?" Before Sarah could answer, emergency lights painted the room in pulsing crimson and azure. Police cars screeched to a halt outside, tires biting into the gravel. Sarah stared at the cake, then at Emily, her tears finally spilling over, tracking through the dust on her cheeks. "The groom," she whispered, the words hanging in the thick air like an accusation. As Mike was dragged away in handcuffs, his denials dissolving into ragged sobs, the wedding cake stood under a police tent, a monument to the horror. Emily stood alone in her ruined gown, watching a forensic technician pass a UV light over the middle tier, where a single bloody fingerprint glowed with an eerie, ghostly blue luminescence. Mike had embezzled everything. The so-called chef discovered the truth, so Mike made him vanish. He used my sister, the crime scene cleaner, to erase his mistake. My sister arrived to a scene steeped in the coppery scent of iron and the chemical tang of bleach. The air felt thick and cold against her skin, heavy with the memory of violence. In the silence, only the faint, irregular drip of water from a pipe echoed. Each swipe of her cloth was a silent pact, burying the evidence under layers of sanitizing foam. Her breath hitched as her fingers brushed something slick and unyielding lodged beneath the baseboard. A fragment the cleanup had missed, that tiny artifact, glinting in the weak light, held the entire terrible truth. In that moment, a primal dread took hold. She wasn't just cleaning a scene, she was becoming part of it. In a final, sick twist, he even had her commission the cake from the victim's own shop. It was his ultimate vision of a fresh start. In the present day, Emily visits Sarah in a low-security correctional facility. They sit separated by the glass, a silent chasm between them. The warmth was gone, replaced by a vast, silent chasm. My sister spent years cleaning away the worst moments of people's lives. She thought she was just removing stains, but the truth is a contaminant. It soaks into everything. The truth doesn't clean up. She tried to shield me from the monster I was marrying by becoming a monster herself. Sarah's voice crackles through the phone line, hollow and spent, as if all the life has been drained from her. "I just wanted your day to be perfect," she whispers, the words carrying the faint, metallic scent of the room. Across the barrier, Emily has no words. She simply lifts a trembling hand and presses her palm against the cold, unforgiving glass. Sarah doesn't mirror it, so I have to ask her, what do you really know about the people who love you? The ones who would do anything to protect you? Where do they go to wash their hands? And what can they never quite scrub off? The darkness became absolute, swallowing all light and sound. A metallic scent, like old coins and damp earth, filled the air. The oppressive stillness was broken only by the frantic, shallow rhythm of his own breathing. Then, as if a switch had been thrown, the world simply ended.